now to Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce from Sydney. Thanks so much for your time. Was it an intrusion? Have there been complaints?
Well, Laura, I think with something that's got 13,000 submissions, something that's got a petition with over 70,000 signatures, something which my own petition's got 21,500 people who have replied to it, a 4 to 5 day inquiry is absurd. They've got an inquiry into caged eggs. It goes over months. It's only got 450 submissions. So because of the brevity of the inquiry, our capacity to clearly ventilate this issue has been severely compromised. And so you have to use other tactics so people are aware of the issue that is happening in their state. I think it's only fair that they know exactly what they're about to endorse. As a citizen of their state, they've got to know what their parliament is doing. And so it's an unusual process, but I think it's essential that people clearly understand what is going on.
What do you want to be ventilated, as you say? What are your biggest concerns about decriminalising abortion? Because the proponents of this bill say it's just about moving it out of the Crimes Act, like every other state.
No, it's not. It goes beyond that. A process just to simply decriminalise would be vastly simpler than this. It allows an abortion right up to the time of birth. And if that happened in another state, in another country, I think a lot of us would have something to say about it.
Only on medical grounds, though, isn't that correct?
Well, it's no psychological and social grounds, so how do we determine that? It allows, by reason of psychological and social grounds, that someone can abort a baby because they can say, I'm under immense pressure because this baby is a girl and I wanted a boy and we need an abortion. Now, the expansion of the terms and the parameters are beyond what was there before. It doesn't deal with coercion. It doesn't deal with the issue that people who have a conscientious objection to being part of this process are not given the proper protections. There are so many facets of this that are expanded way beyond what a decriminalisation of the abortion process would be. And that is why it stirred up so much resentment. And we could see the thousands of people there last night basically saying that their parliament should serve them and understand their concerns and at the very least be vastly more thorough. But of course the people there last night just wanted this bill ditched.
Do you oppose abortion outright though?
I understand that I have oppose abortion, yes, and that's fair to say. I don't do it on religious grounds. I do it on the premise of this, that I can't reconcile myself to the position where someone had a greater right over my life than I do myself. I think people had a responsibility for my life, both before I was born and after I was born, but they didn't have a right over my life. And I know that my views are not held. There is a scale of views. But, Laura, I have not found one person who believes that there should be allowed an abortion the day before a baby could be viably born. I have not found one person who believes that.
But some say that you're using that as a Trojan horse. There are amendments that can be moved here that might make it more acceptable, like pre-22 weeks. I don't think anyone is comfortable with gender selection abortions, but isn't it incumbent upon the coalition government in New South Wales to make sure that can't happen?
Well, it's a free vote, so it's incumbent upon all people in the parliament to clearly reflect what is common sense, that you can't have an abortion up to full term. If the baby can be born viably, it has to have rights. There's been abortion laws in New South Wales for decades. There's been 2 convictions, one for a late-term abortion, self-administered, and one for a doctor. So the law has been working well because it doesn't outlaw lawful abortions, it outlaws unlawful abortions. And so the question is, what exactly are we trying to fix here? Now, those laws have been in place and I've never protested or done anything about them. I've accepted them as the laws of the state. But this law is not the law of the state yet. And as a citizen of New South Wales, I've got every right to voice my views. And because it deals with something so fundamentally important, the life of a person the day before they're born, then if that was happening in another country, I'd be having my say. I think many others would be as well.
Should Scott Morrison have entered the fray here, made his views known?
Well, that's a question for him. That's a question for other people in federal politics.
Would you have liked to have seen your leader, the Prime Minister, steer this debate as you were trying to do?
Well, my leader is not Scott Morrison. My leader is Michael McCormack. I think that that's a question for them. It's a question you should pose to them, and I'm not going to answer on their behalf.
What has shaped your views on this? Because I know you have been opposed to abortion really since you entered politics and probably before then, and those views don't seem to have evolved. Are you impervious to any of the arguments put forward by those who want to see this decriminalised? Do you have any sympathy for those extenuating circumstances when women are raped and want to go through with an abortion? Any of those?
Of course I do, Laura. And the issue is it must clearly be seen as not a statement against a person. It's a statement against an action. And I know and accept that my views are not held by other people, especially in the early forms of pregnancy. I understand that and I accept that. But I don't find any person at the late side. There's a scale of views, a sliding scale of views, where a very small group of people believe in the rights at conception. Basically, every person believes in the rights the day before a baby is born.
Some would say, Barnaby Joyce, that you're a white man, angry. Why should you have the right to have any kind of say over a woman's body? Not my words, but some of your opponents might use that.
Because I'm a person, and you asked me before how these views evolve, because I cannot believe that just by reason that before I was born and then the circumstance of when I was born, which is completely arbitrary, and the day after I was born, I've got entirely different rights. The day after I'm born, someone, they might have a responsibility. In fact, they absolutely do to look after me. And if they abscond from that, it's a criminal offence. The day before I was born, apparently have no rights. If two doctors can say so, it just doesn't stack up philosophically. It's got nothing to do with religion. It just doesn't stack up philosophically. And the idea that someone could have killed me because I said, look, I didn't want a boy, I wanted a girl, that just doesn't stack up philosophically. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's just common sense. And I understand completely that other people have different views at different periods of the pregnancy. I accept that. And when you talk about issues, the extremity of the issues, as you're entitled to do and must bring up, such as rape, such as incest, this legislation doesn't say in these extreme events these situations will be allowed. It uses them in an example, but then it allows it for everybody.
Why should it be up to legislators, not doctors, though? That's the question.
Well, it doesn't prescribe those things. It doesn't say, well, these are extreme events. And what are you saying, that every doctor will therefore abide by it? They don't have to. It doesn't say that in the legislation, and that's where the legislation is lacking. Those cases that you've just brought to the attention, they are not in the legislation. They are used as examples so that the extremity becomes the generality. And you know, you can speed at 150 kilometres an hour, I suppose, to get away from it. If your baby's sick and you need to get to hospital. But that doesn't mean the roads should have no speed limits. You know, it's very rare that someone would hit you with a stick, but it doesn't mean there's a law that should be outlawing it. And to say, well, it's self-defence, well, that's a different situation, and it's got to be codified in the law. It's not codified in the law, therefore the law is a farce.